homage to Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to Manjushri, homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate all sentient beings, please give rise to the supreme bodhicitta. Now let us continue our study of this treatise. Previously we discussed the 27 types of unwholesome intentions and actions. Whenever any affliction arises, we should remain still like a block of wood. Due to time constraints in the last class, I may not have explained each point in detail, but it's important to understand that whenever any of the afflictions mentioned earlier arise, whether it is laziness, indolence, fear, desire, anger, and so on, we should not be carried away by them. Instead, we should try our best to remain stable in mindfulness. Do not let afflictions lead us to create negative karma. Today, we will discuss the summary. The summary is expressed in the following verse. Thus, noticing when their mind becomes afflicted or occupied pointlessly, the heroes use the antidotes to keep it firmly in control. The meaning of this verse is very clear. At all times, we should observe our own mind stream to see whether any of the afflictive states or any meaningless attitudes we mentioned earlier have arisen. Once we notice that afflictions or meaningless states have indeed arisen, we should immediately apply mindfulness and awareness as the antidote. In this way, we persistently protect our extremely precious bodhicitta. This is how we should understand this verse. When we analyze this further, we must first examine all the afflictions we discussed earlier, such as desire, anger, ignorance, laziness, fear, and so on. These mental states actually cause great harm to both our present and future lives. As practitioners, we must always observe our three doors: body, speech, and mind. In particular, we should pay close attention to our mental states. While observing, if we notice that anger, desire, or other afflictions have indeed arisen, at that moment we must recognize their harmfulness and faults, then immediately apply the appropriate antidote to overcome them. For example, when anger arises, we counter it with loving kindness and compassion. When desire arises, as taught in both the Hinayana and Mahayana teachings, we apply meditation on the impurity of the body as the antidote. When ignorance arises, we use emptiness and dependent origination as the antidote. Likewise, if jealousy or pride arises, we should also apply the appropriate antidote. For example, to counter jealousy, we meditate on equanimity or the exchange of self and others. When pride arises, we should subdue it by destroying ego clinging as the antidote. In this way, our practice will truly be in accordance with the Dharma. That is one point. The second point is this. As mentioned earlier, if we act carelessly, such as digging the ground or cutting grass without observation, or we do things that have no real purpose, such as engaging in idle talk, we should recognize that as practitioners who have generated bodhicitta, there is no benefit in spending our days idly. We must develop this awareness and apply the antidote to our own state of confusion or to our habitual idle behaviors. This is very important. Some people who have generated bodhicitta fail to address these two issues, which I mentioned earlier. One is to regularly observe whether any afflictive or impure mental states have arisen. As soon as they arise, we must immediately apply the antidote. This is a very important point. Also, we often like to engage in meaningless activities. For example, some Dharma teachers or tutors may think, when can I take a break and relax for a while? When can I really have some time to unwind? Actually, this is not a helpful attitude. As someone who has generated bodhicitta, we should not be preoccupied with our own comfort and happiness. Of course, as ordinary beings, it's natural we have such thoughts occasionally, but we must immediately recognize them and then apply the antidote. This is because someone who has generated bodhicitta does not have their own time or space. Their body, speech, and mind have all been dedicated to all sentient beings. So now, whenever there is an opportunity to benefit others, we should act on it. If there is no benefit for sentient beings, then it is acceptable to consider our own matters for a moment. But generally, whatever we do, whether study the Dharma or do other things, should be of benefit to sentient beings. Therefore, if desire, anger, or self-praise and disparaging others arise, we must apply the antidote. If meaningless thoughts arise, which happens quite often, as genuine practitioners, we should frequently notice them. Oh, I shouldn't be like this now. My attitude must change. If we can change, then it isn't a difficult thing. So we must make an effort to change ourselves. If we do not change ourselves, then we easily fall into various forms of negative mental states, such as laziness or indolence. Therefore, first of all, we must eliminate meaningless activities. In fact, in the Compendium of Training, there is a citation from the Sutra of Vast Secret. It is stated that as practitioners, we must first protect our own bodies. To protect our bodies, we must refrain from harming sentient beings. And to avoid harming sentient beings, we must first eliminate meaningless activities. So generally speaking, those who have generated bodhicitta should always observe themselves in all their daily activities and ask, does what I'm doing benefit sentient beings? Does it benefit my own liberation? This should be our first consideration. We do not need to always put our family or our own body first. Always concerned with these is not the conduct of a true practitioner. Of course, as ordinary beings, sometimes we will think this way, but this kind of thinking is not very beneficial. So I believe we must keep the mind firmly in control and persist in maintaining bodhicitta. Of course, when we first take up bodhicitta, at the beginning, we may feel quite confident, or when we are studying this treatise, we may feel, oh, I will definitely never abandon bodhicitta, but this resolve must be reinforced over the long term. If we do not practice it consistently over time, then today's resolve may not be there tomorrow. There is a saying among Tibetans, the attitude you have when you go to sleep at night is gone by morning. During today's teaching, we may think, this is crucial, and I must never lose it. Over time, this attitude gradually becomes vague and fades away. Our original determination may not remain so firm, so no matter what society we find ourselves in or what kind of spiritual path we follow, we must never abandon our vow to maintain bodhicitta. We should have unwavering confidence in this, but to make this confidence stable, I believe we must engage in long-term study. If we do not, then during a teaching we feel bodhicitta is so important that we will never abandon it in the future. But as ordinary beings, when encountering various challenges, we may not be able to withstand them. As a result, our spiritual resolve can easily decline. Therefore, we must always study the treatises in a systematic and diligent way, and to study for a long period of time. For example, some of us are now studying the Bodhicharyavatara, which is certainly something to be happy about. But we must have patience for it. Some people say, I've already studied for 6 months, that's great. But studying for 6 months is not even a year. When reaching a year, we can say we are 1 year older in terms of studying this text. At that time, we can celebrate our first birthday. But as a Buddhist student, we should study for at least 10 years. Taking a Dharma name is not enough. Some people say, I have taken refuge for over 10 years, but they still do not understand the basic principle of karma. What is the use of just having a Dharma name for 10 years? Even if they have a Dharma name for 100 years, it is of no real benefit. Their mind streams remain the same as before, and they spend their days engaged in worldly affairs. There is no real meaning. Some people think, I have been ordained for many years now. Their bodies have become ordained, but their minds have not. They must be mentally ordained to be called a genuine practitioner. The only way is to study for more than 10 years. I hope every Buddhist will remember this advice deeply and keep it in their hearts. This is what we have gained through many years of study and reflection. Nowadays, many people listen to a few classes for a few months and think they are practitioners. This is absolutely not the case. For worldly education, one must complete elementary and secondary school and study for at least 10 years to get a diploma. This is not even enough to make a living or find a good job and become a truly wise person. Even with 10 years of education, it is still difficult to find a satisfactory job in society today. In the same way, the knowledge of Buddhism is even more vast and profound. To truly become a practitioner, we need to study for at least 10 years. If we have studied for more than 10 years, we are like a child who reaches the age of 10, can be considered grown up a little. But ideally, by the age of 20 or so, we can live independently without needing our parents' help. If someone has studied for over 20 years, wherever they go, others need not worry about them. In the same way, if we study systematically every day in a Buddhist community dedicated to hearing and contemplation for 10 or 20 years, then by that time there will be no need for a teacher, a lama, or anyone else to look after us every day. Some may think, now that the Lama has said that Bodhicitta is very important, I don't need to study the Bodhicharyavatara anymore. I'll just practice at home by myself. If they practice at home, they may only keep it up for at most a month, hardly any longer than that. So learning requires a certain attitude, and this attitude must be clear, otherwise their spiritual resolve will definitely decline. This is very easy to happen. For example, can a 1-year-old child take care of themselves? Absolutely not. Even at 5 years old, we still worry about them. If left alone, they cannot become accomplished on their own. So many people do not understand that many problems today have to do with education and environment. I hope everyone will persist in long-term study to maintain bodhicitta and counteract the meaningless and afflictive mental states. In summary, as practitioners, we must frequently examine our actions. Are we doing anything that violates the precepts or is naturally negative? Are our actions meaningless? Shantideva has explained this very clearly to us. If we have done either of these two things, we should feel deep regret and immediately confess. If we have not done these things and all our actions are in accordance with virtue or are meaningful, then no matter how tired we are, or even if we feel some physical pain, living in this world is still meaningful. We should remember this. Now, let's learn the virtuous actions we should uphold, known as actions to be done. I will be resolute, full of faith, steady, respectful, courteous, conscientious, fearful, calm, and dedicated to pleasing others. We have already discussed the 27 types of actions to be abandoned. If you count carefully, you will find we have covered 27 types. Now, we should cultivate 8 virtuous qualities. For a Mahayana practitioner, these are also essential. First, this verse mentions full of faith, meaning unwavering confidence in karma, the 3 jewels, the 4 noble truths, the 12 links of dependent origination, and other virtuous dharmas. Without faith, you will not enter the authentic dharma, and even if you do, your practice will not succeed. Therefore, faith is the source and mother of all qualities. This is quite evident among practitioners. Some people have great faith. You can even see it in their expressions. It's clear they have strong faith in their teacher, the 3 jewels, and the dharma. This is the first quality. The second quality is being resolute, which refers to having certainty in one's view, or we can say having confident faith. Confident faith means that we have unwavering certainty in the 3 jewels and the dharma we learn, such as emptiness and the 4 noble truths, and we have abandoned wrong views, doubts, and inappropriate attention. And we are convinced from deep within that past and future lives truly exist, and the blessings and qualities of the 3 jewels are inconceivable. Being resolute is not following what others say. It is a certainty arising from deep within one's own heart. This quality is also indispensable. If you do not have a firm, correct view in your Dharma practice, then nothing you study is reliable and your knowledge will remain superficial. Nowadays, some people study the Dharma only superficially, just going through the motions. They lack true respect and correct view for the Buddha and have no real faith in karma, which is not very meaningful. The third quality is being steady. You must maintain stability both in your faith and your view. If you do not remain stable but are swayed by the wind of karma, then your study will not succeed. Without steady faith or view, today you may believe in this teaching, tomorrow in another. Today you may have faith in this teacher, tomorrow you follow another. Today you are interested in one thing, tomorrow in something else. Abandoning one and taking up another, you gain nothing in the end. It is like the story of the bear digging for marmots, constantly switching and never succeeding. So having a stable view and faith is extremely important. We have repeatedly emphasized this from the beginning of learning the Bodhicharyavatara until now. First, We should observe whether a person is stable. If someone is stable, even if they are not very wise, they are still very reliable in whatever they do. Therefore, their study will be successful. This is the third point. The fourth is being respectful and courteous. This means having faith and respect for the Dharma, the teacher, and the three jewels. Respect is very important. Many virtues arise from it. For example, if we often make prostrations to the three jewels, speak respectful words, and maintain a respectful attitude in our hearts, we easily receive the blessings of the teacher and the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If you have no respect in your mind, how could you possibly receive blessings from the Dharma? For example, when studying the Bodhicharyavatara, some people are very respectful toward the Dharma and the teacher, as well as toward the lineage masters and all the bodhisattvas. If you have an attitude saying, bring me the text, otherwise I won't study, on one hand, this may be due to ignorance, but on the other hand, others can clearly see that you have no respect for the three jewels at all. We should treat all Dharma friends as if they were the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Whether in speech or action, we should always treat others with great respect. But some people have a completely different attitude. Even after one meeting, you can tell some people's faith, their view of the three jewels, their steadiness, and their respect. All of these qualities are immediately apparent. So the fourth quality is respect and courtesy. The fifth is conscientiousness. We have already discussed this before. As practitioners, we must have a sense of conscience and shame. Without this quality, nothing we do will succeed. As the treatise on the modes of being repeatedly emphasizes, if we possess this quality, we will have all other qualities, and the Dharma protectors will support us. In the Memoirs of Shadow and Dust, there is a story about Master Miao. When he first began his practice, he was extremely diligent. Day and night he practiced with great effort, but he would often get drowsy at night. When he got drowsy, he tried various methods to overcome it, but with little success. Later, to discipline himself, he sat in meditation on a very high cliff as a form of self-discipline. He thought, if I fall asleep here, I will fall off, then I wouldn't dare to sleep. So he meditated on this very dangerous ledge, and one time he did fall asleep while meditating. So he fell off the cliff. As he was falling, he thought, this time I am surely finished. There is no hope for me to stay alive. But as he was falling halfway down the mountain, someone seemed to catch him and bring him back up to the ledge. He asked, who saved me? Then a voice came from the sky saying, I am Bodhisattva Skanda. I saved you. At that moment, the master thought, well, I must be practicing quite well. Even the Dharma protector has come to save me. He thought, I must be a good practitioner. Then he asked, are there any practitioners like me in the world? Then Bodhisattva Skanda replied from the sky, there are as many as the sands of the Ganges. But because you have developed pride for 20 lifetimes, I will not protect you. When he heard this, he felt deeply distressed. He thought, now that the Dharma protector will no longer support me, how difficult things will be. He was very sad. But then he thought, no matter what, even if the Dharma protector ignores me, so be it, I will continue my practice. So regardless, he continued to practice on that same ledge, and again he dozed off. So from these stories, we can see the great masters of the past not only devoted all their daytime to practice, but their short hours for sleep at night were not wasted. Yet I have heard of some practitioners today are still snoring at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. Their snoring is said to be audible even outside the wooden house. This is really a bit embarrassing, though it is only a very small number of people. Of course, these people may have their reasons. Perhaps they have volunteer jobs or other things. But when we consider the dedication to practice that great masters of the past demonstrated, whether in Han Buddhism or Tibetan Buddhism, there are countless great practitioners who devoted all their time either to benefit sentient beings or to their own practice. They had almost no time for distractions. On the other hand, some people in big cities nowadays spend all their time on meaningless things and spend very little on genuine practice, sometimes in telling these stories. I have to include some interesting remarks. Back to the story, Master Miao dozed off a second time and fell again. When he fell this time, he thought, This time, the Dharma protector will not save me. I am surely finished. But again, someone saved him, and he asked, who saved me? Again, it was said to be Bodhisattva Skanda. He asked, didn't you say you wouldn't save me for 20 lifetimes? Why did you come again today? Bodhisattva replied, because you developed shame for your pride, and you realized you should not be like that. This sense of shame has destroyed your negative karma and has overcome your previous pride. That is why I have come to save you today. From this story, we can see that pride in one's mind stream is a real obstacle to practice, but a sense of shame will overcome it. Some Dharma friends feel deep regret after making mistakes. They feel very embarrassed, whether in front of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or the teacher. They think, as a practitioner, why do I keep breaking the precepts? This sense of shame is truly very noble in the eyes of the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Dharma protectors. Therefore, as ordinary beings, it is very difficult to never make any mistakes at all. But what's important is that we have conscience and shame. The sixth quality is fear of karmic consequences. In everything we do, we should concern about whether our actions will lead to rebirth in the lower realms. If we create negative karma, we will definitely experience the results. This is an extremely important mindset for practitioners. If we are not afraid of karmic consequences, even if we think we have some accomplishment, it will not bring true benefit. Khenpo Yonga once said, some people think they have attained realization and are not afraid of karmic consequences. This actually shows they have not attained realization. If someone believes they are realized and not afraid of karma, this attitude itself proves they have not realized emptiness. As Guru Padmasambhava said, the higher their realization, the more meticulous they are about karma and its effects. If some people say, I don't need to listen to these teachings, I already recognize the true nature of my mind, that's enough. You spend all day listening to teachings, studying so hard. What's the point? You should be free and at ease like me because I have realized emptiness. Some people are always saying things like this and always think of themselves as realized beings. But truly realized beings would never speak this way. Therefore, we must always be very cautious about karma and its effects. This is what it means to be a genuine practitioner. The seventh quality is being calm. What does calmness mean? It means that our body, speech, and mind should all be pure and peaceful. For example, bodily calmness can be shown from the way someone walks and their demeanor. Oh, this person is a very pure practitioner because they do not rush about but often sit quietly at home. If they go out, their conduct is very much in accordance with the Dharma. Then there is calmness in speech. From a person's words and tone, you can see this person doesn't boast. He is truly a practitioner. You can tell a person's inner state from their language. Of course, mental calmness is relatively difficult to achieve. If you are not constantly distracted or scattered, but often rest in a state that is in accordance with the Dharma, this is called mental calmness. As students of the Dharma, our minds should be calm. The eighth quality is being dedicated to pleasing others. This means we should strive to bring benefit and joy to sentient beings. In other words, we must be diligent, as I mentioned earlier. For those who have generated bodhicitta, we should not spend our days thinking, when is the next holiday? When can I rest? Is it Sunday yet? How nice it will be on Sunday. We should not count the days. Today is Wednesday, tomorrow is Thursday. Thinking about how to rest and eat well on Sunday, this shows that our bodhicitta is very weak. If genuine bodhicitta has arisen in one's mind stream, then attachment to personal rest and happiness is very rare. Self-centered clinging should be very minimal. Instead, they will try every possible way to help and benefit sentient beings. Even if it is just to inspire a single moment of virtue in the mind of one being, they are willing to spend a great deal of time to make it happen. Many Dharma teachers today are extremely busy for the sake of sentient beings. Some great teachers who have generated bodhicitta are truly admirable and inspiring. Although they have almost no time or space for themselves, they are always busy spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings, and this is truly admirable. Whether lay or ordained, everyone should have this kind of motivation. Some people may say, it's enough to practice quietly by myself in a peaceful place. There's no need to interact with many people. But if we really want to carry out the activity of benefiting beings, we must interact with many people. and use various means such as modern technology and media to help many people understand the truth of the Dharma. This is very important for each of us. We should spread the Dharma in this way. It is impossible for just one or two people to accomplish this. That's why we now try to use television, the internet, and various skillful means to help others understand the truth of the Dharma. I hope that everyone will generate the motivation to help and support any teacher who is spreading the genuine Dharma. Without help from others as the conditions, one teacher alone cannot accomplish many things, unless one is a bodhisattva who has attained a bhumi, who can emanate 100 bodies and shake 100 worlds. But for most teachers nowadays, not to mention shaking 100 worlds, even shaking a small house is difficult. So I think it is very necessary for many lay people to support Dharma teachers' work of spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings. If no one helps, then a single teacher alone may not be able to accomplish much. The scope of their Dharma activity may not be very wide. Therefore, everyone should offer support to any authentic Dharma teacher. In this way, we ourselves will also gain true merit and benefit. So we should be more diligent in the future. Don't spend your days thinking, when can I rest? When can I just do nothing at all? If you are not spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings and spend your days eating, drinking, and thinking how happy you are, this is a Hinayana mindset. Followers of the Hinayana mainly seek their own liberation. But since you have generated bodhicitta, you must keep going. Since you have already joined the Bodhisattva community, please try to benefit others. I remembered that when I went to school, a classmate kept sleeping in the morning, and the teacher on duty came and hit him with a stick. The teacher said, "Since you are in this school, you must get up in the morning for exercise." The teacher hit him while lecturing him. Later, the student said, "Teacher, please don't hit me. I promise I will get up early from now on." But the next morning, he slept even more soundly, and we all laughed. Yesterday, he promised the teacher, but today he slept even more. We all have our habits and karmic tendencies, but I sincerely hope that after generating bodhicitta, we will always think of the benefit of sentient beings and not just our own happiness. This is exactly what the Bodhicharyavatara teaches. We just discussed the 8 virtuous qualities. These 8 qualities are truly very important for practitioners. They are faith, view, respect, conscience, fear of karma, as well as calmness and benefiting sentient beings. If you carefully examine your own mind stream, and when I say you need to examine, it's not that I never need to reflect on myself. Sometimes I also feel a bit uncomfortable when I reflect on myself. As a practitioner, why do I lack these qualities? Other times I feel that I'm not the worst, but not the best either. In any case, everyone should reflect on these 8 points we discussed earlier, then see whether you possess them. If you do, rejoice in yourself. If not, do your best to cultivate them in your mind stream. Now let's look at the next verse. "I won't despair at the wishes of the childish who don't get along. I will be loving, thinking that such thoughts are due to the afflictions." This verse says that ordinary beings are difficult to get along with, and they are hard to be satisfied. It is best not to let our minds become annoyed when they are not satisfied. Why is that? Because ordinary beings are generally driven by afflictions, and their minds are not tamed. So when we see pitiful beings or people who are not nice, we should not be annoyed or angry toward them. Instead, we should treat them with loving kindness and compassion. This verse tells us that the minds of all sentient beings are incredibly diverse. They have all kinds of different inclinations and capacities. This is why Buddha Shakyamuni taught the 84,000 Dharma teachings, because sentient beings have different capacities, inclinations, and ways of thinking. So, different things can happen to different sentient beings. For example, if I praise someone today, they may or may not be happy about it. Recently, many people in our academy have worked very hard all year. Many have completed their service for the whole year. I wanted to give them something as a reward, but some people were happy about this reward while others weren't. So I thought, if so, then this is unnecessary. So I dropped the idea. The point is, this is truly how sentient beings are. If I praise one person, that person may be happy or not. The person I praised reacts differently because of their personality. Some people are very happy when praised, thinking, "Oh, I was praised today, that's great. I'll keep working hard." But sometimes when I praise someone, they think, "I'd rather quietly do my work without attention." They are actually unhappy to be praised. So people's personalities are completely different. If I give something to several people today, some are happy to receive it, while others are not. From their reactions, we can see that sentient beings have different mentalities. It is simply impossible to satisfy everyone's mind. Then we may start to feel annoyed, thinking, it's so hard to benefit beings, maybe I should give up, I'll just practice some Hinayana methods myself. The other day, we mentioned that even Shariputra once abandoned Bodhicitta for this very reason. So sometimes we can see sentient beings have different attitudes. There is a saying among Tibetans, 30 people have 30 minds, 30 yaks have 60 horns. It says that the minds of sentient beings are all completely different. Therefore, whatever we do, it is impossible to satisfy all sentient beings. This is especially true when it applies to ordinary people. One may try every possible way to make them happy, but in the end there will always be something that makes them unhappy. For example, for a group leader who is very responsible and everyone says, this person is so active, but some may think he just wants to be a model worker, I don't like it. If a leader is not active, people say, what's the use of having him as a leader? So, being active is not good, not being active is not good either. Some people go into retreat and others say, he's so troublesome, never comes out, he must have a problem. If he doesn't go into retreat, people say, he's always running around outside, that's a problem too. So no matter what you do, people's minds are never satisfied. If I speak quickly in class, many people say, you speak too fast, we can't understand, please slow down. If I slow down a bit, they say, you're too slow, it's exhausting, so there's nothing I can do. So no matter what others say, I should continue to work as always. It is impossible to satisfy everyone in everything we do. Some managers find that many people are dissatisfied, so they wonder, can I be replaced? Otherwise I'll offend too many people. When I hear this, I think of this verse. It is impossible to satisfy everyone. Even in Buddha Shakyamuni's time, there were people like Devadatta and Sunaksatra who were dissatisfied. As described in the extensive biography of Buddha Shakyamuni, they even slandered the Buddha, saying his discipline was impure and so on. In the biography and accounts of Chan Master Baizhang, some people also slandered him, calling him a violator of precepts. And Master Hanshan and Master Tangshu, for example, also suffered many hardships and injustices. In Han Buddhism, no matter how pure a teacher's conduct is or how extraordinary their realization, others may still slander them. The greater a teacher's activity, the more people may appear to slander them for no reason at all. This happens all the time. So when we are working for the Dharma and sentient beings, whatever others say, if there is a reasonable point, we should accept others' suggestions. But if what they say is meaningless or unhelpful, we should not become overly attached to them. We should benefit beings according to our own conscience and with good intentions. This is very important, not only in spreading the Dharma, but also in our own practice. Some people say, I don't dare to do anything because I'm afraid of what others will say. But what others say doesn't really matter. As long as you have not done anything wrong, what others say is their own business. We should think this way. Moreover, we should feel great compassion for them. They do this involuntarily because their thoughts and words arise from afflictions. Therefore, rather than feeling angry toward them, we should feel even more compassion. The Buddha also taught this in the Sutra of Questions of Purna. When we see sentient beings committing negative actions, we should do our best to guide them and always give rise to loving kindness and compassion for them. We should not give rise to anger toward them. Bodhisattva Maitreya also taught this in the ornament of Mahayana Sutras. Some sentient beings, without any control over themselves, constantly create negative karma. When they do so, wise people do not fixate on their faults, but instead say that they act in such deluded ways, not out of their own wishes, and thus are more compassionate toward them. Their compassion for these beings only increases. So, when we encounter bad people or those with negative behavior, we should not be angry but should give rise to compassion for them. Once, Patrul Rinpoche was in Nyetang teaching the Bodhicharyavatara to others. An elderly person made an offering to Patrul Rinpoche. It was a horseshoe-shaped piece of silver. Patrul Rinpoche, as is well known, had no attachment to wealth. This is clear from many stories about him. Later, a thief saw that Patrul Rinpoche had this silver. He very much wanted to steal it, so he kept following him. After staying for 6 or 7 days, Patrul Rinpoche left that place. After he left, the thief continued to follow him. Since Patrul Rinpoche usually wandered in the appearance of a beggar, he would sleep in places where there was no one else around. Patrul Rinpoche often carried a clay pot and a small pouch. Other than that, he had nothing else with him. Sometimes when we hear stories like this, we realize that some practitioners here really live very simply. They have no possessions, nothing at all. As long as they have food and clothing, that's enough. When Patrul Rinpoche stayed somewhere, he would place his pouch beside him. That night, the thief took a whip in hand and began to rummage through the bag. The sound woke Patrul Rinpoche. Patrul Rinpoche said, "Hey, what are you doing? Rummaging through my bag in the middle of the night. What are you looking for?" The thief replied, "I want that silver ingot you have. If you don't give it to me, I'll have to hit you." Patrul Rinpoche laughed and said, "I'm not attached to that silver ingot at all. Back where I was teaching, I used it to place my teapot in the fire. After that, I just leave it there. You can go there and look for it yourself." At first, the thief didn't believe him. How could something so valuable just be thrown away? But after Patrul Rinpoche said this, the thief went back and really did find it in the fire pit. After finding it, he was filled with deep faith. He thought, only a true great practitioner would do this. He didn't even take such a precious silver ingot with him. The act of my stealing from him would lead me to fall into the hell realm. I must go to the master and confess. After much effort, he finally found Patrul Rinpoche. Patrul Rinpoche asked, "Why have you come here again?" The thief said, "I was really wrong. Earlier, I wanted to rob you and was ready to hurt you. But after seeing you, I realized you truly have no attachment to wealth. That's why I have developed such deep faith in you. I came here today to confess. Will you forgive me?" Patrul Rinpoche said, "There's no need to confess. You can just take the silver ingot. I have no attachment to such things. But it's best if you develop faith in the 3 jewels and regularly pray to them." At that time, some people around Patrul Rinpoche were about to beat the thief. They said, "Look, he tried to steal from our teacher." But Patrul Rinpoche said, "Don't hit my disciple. If you hit him, it's actually harming me." Contrary to people in such stories, when some people encounter a thief, they usually become very angry. For example, there was a person who had a thief come over on the first day. He waited inside with a knife the next day. So the conduct of these great accomplished masters is completely different from ours. If Patrul Rinpoche saw our behavior today, he would probably laugh. So we should use every possible method to correct our attitude with others. For some pitiful sentient beings, no matter how well we treat them, they may create obstacles for us or even harm us. But when this happens, we should not give rise to anger. Nowadays, some people say, "I've been so good to this person," but not only are they not good to me, they even treat me badly. Ordinary people would feel they will not hesitate to harm such people with a knife. You can see this attitude in their words and actions. But as someone who has generated bodhicitta, we should know every sentient being has their own afflictions. In reality, they have no freedom, and when they are driven by their afflictions, they may involuntarily act almost as if they were crazy. So, whether driven by anger or greed, they may only realize it is wrong afterwards, but by then it's already too late. So when we encounter such situations, we should try to remain still like a block of wood and remind ourselves, this being is truly pitiful. Today this person scolded me, beat me badly, or may even kill me. This being is truly pitiful. I will recite Amitabha's name or some mantras for them. If you can do this, then you are truly a practitioner. So we often say, whether as a bodhisattva in training or anyone else, if someone says something to you or scolds you, you must never strike back. If you really hit them, then no matter what the situation, the fault is yours, because you are someone who has generated bodhicitta. So whether others are right or wrong, you must always practice patience. Of course, we will discuss the practice of patience in much more detail when we study the chapter on patience. After we finish the chapter on patience, probably none of you will ever get into a fight again. Next, we have the following verse. directed by myself and beings toward things that are irreproachable. I'll always keep my mind held fast, without a me, like an emanation. This verse is very important. It says that for the benefit of ourselves and all sentient beings, we should engage only in actions that are free from negative karma. Even more importantly, not only should we avoid unwholesome actions, but we should view everything as like a dream or an illusion and not give rise to pride. In this way, we uphold our bodhicitta. This is the most crucial practice for a Mahayana practitioner. All of us want to gain some benefit for ourselves, but the greatest benefit is to attain realization. In this ocean of suffering that is samsara, who wouldn't want liberation? We all seek liberation, but is the wish for personal liberation just a selfish motivation? Actually, the purpose of personal liberation is to benefit sentient beings. So on one hand, we seek our own liberation, and on the other, we should do everything possible to help all beings who are trapped in the ocean of suffering to attain liberation as well. So for the benefit of ourselves and others, we must always do what is beneficial for sentient beings. As someone who has generated bodhicitta, never do anything that is not beneficial or even harmful to sentient beings. If in our short human life we harm sentient beings, that is truly regrettable and unreasonable. At the same time, we must always follow the Buddha's teachings. Abstain from all evil and cultivate all good. We must hold ourselves to this principle and standard. This is also very important. Whether it is a prescribed action or a naturally negative action, all negative karma is harmful to our liberation. Therefore, for the benefit of ourselves and others, we should do what is beneficial and avoid creating negative karma. You see, every verse here, every line, contains extremely profound meaning. Don't think that the Bodhicharyavatara is easy to understand because each verse contains only a few words, so it seems easy. The meaning of every verse is truly extraordinary. Especially for each of us, it should bring real benefit. If we can truly benefit sentient beings and avoid negative actions, will we develop pride in our mind streams? Most likely, yes. For example, look at how vast my work of spreading the Dharma and benefiting beings is. Or a teacher might say, I have so many disciples here and there. I have disciples everywhere. This is my Dharma center. Some teachers are full of pride, which is very apparent in their tone. My work is growing day by day, and my future plans are... When they speak like this, there is a sense of pride. With pride, they are not genuine practitioners. Therefore, we must always view everything as a dream or an illusion. The second chapter of Finding Rest in Illusion specifically teaches that all phenomena are like illusions. If we practice in this illusory way, we will ultimately attain an illusory result. Recently, I have been reading the chapter on illusion in Finding Rest in Illusion. After studying it, I review everything like an illusion for a day or two, and I feel like only practicing with illusionary view is meaningful. Even everything is like illusion, we must never create negative karma. I have had very deep experiences, but after a while, this experience all fade away like a bubble, leaving no trace. That can happen. Overall, whenever we do any virtuous action, we must not have pride. If there is pride, the virtue will not succeed. Even if you are a bodhisattva of the second bhumi, if you think you have pure discipline, you are a violator of precepts. Therefore, we should always contemplate that all virtue and all non-virtue are like illusions, without any true nature. Everything is like an illusion, without inherent existence. So, what is there to be proud of? Sometimes when we reflect on the course of our whole lives, all that remains is a pleasant memory. Other than that, there is nothing at all. When Jetsun Milarepa returned home from Utsang, his mother had died, his sister had become a beggar, and their house had collapsed, leaving only a wall. The heap of jewels sutra they used to venerate had become a bird's nest. He then sang a very moving song of impermanence and illusion. I remember when I was teaching the Bodhicharyavatara, previously I referenced it in my teaching. If you have time, you can look at the meaning of that song. Truly, when we reflect on our own life experiences, everything is illusory. All the things we were once so attached to are truly meaningless. A few years ago, I went back to the place where I attended elementary school. I looked at the place where we used to live. There used to be an old monk who lived there, but he had long since passed away. The house we lived in had become just a wall. where I used to sleep, there was now a thicket. The whole area was deserted. When I went there, all the memories from my school days came back to me. All the joys and sorrows of those days came flooding back. It felt as if I had lived there for a long time. In fact, 20 years had passed. The whole 20 years felt like a dream from yesterday, already gone. I think everyone here has probably had this feeling. Every time you return to your hometown or recall childhood dreams, when these memories come to mind, you often realize that the things you were once so attached to were just a dream. There's nothing to cling to. So even though we think we are doing well in our practice, these can also become an obstacle to practice. Do not let pride arise. With pride, you can never truly progress in your practice. Therefore, we must always practice this illusory bodhicitta. If you protect your mind with this bodhicitta, your practice will definitely benefit your mind stream. Let's stop here for today.
Bandara